Oh, dang it.
Why did you say dang it?
It was after.
I wanted her hey.
Go ahead. Start it out.
Okay. Hey.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our 20s podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Today we have on a very special guest. You might know her from previous episodes. Hayley, you've been on twice before?
Twice. Those times. Yet again, we have our BFF, Hayley Ross. You've heard her on the show before. We'll post her previous episodes. We did an episode about dating. Mm-hmm.
We did an episode about chronic illness.
No,
that would be a good one, though.
That would be a good one. No,
we
did.
I think they were both around like the lovey vibes.
Mm-hmm. They're both dating podcasts.
They were both dating.
Mm-hmm.
One was a little more relationship focused. One was a little more dating on the scene.
Yeah, you guys have been around for a while.
I made up a whole other episode.
Isn't it crazy that we do that?
It is pretty crazy, but if you want me on again, I got you.
We've had many people inspired by.
Mm-hmm. I'm very inspiring.
She's an inspiring girl, and that's why she's back here today.
True. Hello, guys.
Hello. So please go ahead and listen to Hayley's previous episodes, especially her last one on dating, who I recently shared with a friend who was like on the apps carousel, as if we shall call it such a thing. And Hayley shared so much great advice for riding that wave. So if you are dating via the apps or you know someone who's dating, that's an excellent episode for inspiration, tips, tricks, mindset.
So you don't feel all down in the dumps while you're doing it. You just feel A-O-freaking-K.
Highly recommend. But today, Hayley is the very first in our case study series, which Brenda and I kind of kicked off with our 300th episode, is that we're kind of in this period of a bit of a reflection because we started the show in our earlier 20s. Now we are in, dare I say, our late 20s. Yes. Disgusting. And I think it's kind of our responsibility as a show about your 20s to unpack how we've changed from that age period to this age period. So we're going to be doing these kind of case studies with some guests that we've had on previously to see where we've grown and where we've still got growing to do.
Yeah, I honestly love that. Like, I think that's so smart of you guys to do.
Right. I'm really glad since that's what you're here to do.
True. True. I do think it's smart. I'm not even lying.
And isn't that so beautiful? It really, I feel like it really is a testament, though, to like every time that we have someone new on the show or every time that we're a guest on someone's show, we always come back to this idea that your 20s are so crazy, chaotic, and that everyone's version of it looks different. And because there's so much comparison and because there's so much back and forth and wondering, like, should I be on this timeline? Like, everyone does it anyways. So we just want people to have like an accurate, not even accurate, but to have enough like versions of people's stories to know like, oh, either someone's in the exact same boat as me or someone is on the totally opposite end, and neither is better or worse. Right. But we're excited to do that. People
and feeling like comfortable about that, like feeling enthused for all versions of the 20s, because like I think it's one of the deepest insecurities that people feel at our age, and like my best friend is pregnant right now, and I am talking to her every day about, oh, you're at 26 weeks now, you're at this, like, and we're going through these milestones, and it's awesome. Like, it's so, so, so cool. And I think it's even more beautiful because I don't feel any sort of way about it except like genuine excitement and beauty. And I think it's amazing and so exciting. And it doesn't make me feel like, oh my God, I'm not married, I'm not pregnant, or like, am I behind, or is her version wrong, or anything like that. It just feels nice. And I just don't think I would have been there a couple of years ago. And I think that it's just like such a beautiful thing about being in your 20s. But it's why I think it's really smart that you guys are doing this, because it is so weird how different people are on like different timelines.
It is. And I feel like that's one of the things, like, it's funny because all of our friends have like a different type of significance to us and like what they add to our lives and the purpose that they serve and all of that. But I feel like something that we always come back to, like commending Hayley specifically on, is the way that she's worked on like her mindset towards things. Like, I feel like at a point in time, we had commended her for the way that she navigated a longer term relationship, which is really difficult. And then we'd commended her on the way that she navigated dating when that has so many ups and downs. And I keep saying commended, but what I really mean is admired. And then now I feel like one of the biggest things that we're in, it's like all of these big hurdles in our 20s, and you keep coming back to this place where it's not like a fake sense of peace with it. Like, you really do have you've found peace within all of these different stages because you've done so much intentional work on yourself and have found so much confidence in like who you are and what you bring and where you're going. That doesn't mean she doesn't doubt it sometimes. We all do. But I think it's really inspiring for people to see that. And you have this ability to be really happy for people, even if you're like not exactly where they are, even if you don't want to be where they are. But it's something that I don't think everybody can say about where their mindset is at.
That is truly just the nicest thing ever. And I love coming on this podcast because I get so many compliments from my best friends. And it's just so nice.
She just comes here for the compliments.
That's it. She needs the boost.
I do agree with Brenda. It's one of the things that I speak the highest about for you, Hale, is your ability to be so happy for your people, even if they have something that maybe you want, or you're at a different stage, or you're struggling in an area of your life. You have developed this amazing quality to be able to be so present and genuinely happy for your people. And I don't know if you had that when we were younger. I don't think any of us did. Yeah. And I haven't thought about that before right now, because when I think of Hayley, I think of a person who is like the best friend you could ever want, because for many reasons, but one of them being is because she can so genuinely be so happy for people no matter what she has going on in her life. And now that I think about it, I'm like, oh, I don't know if that was always true when we were younger. I think we all probably were on the opposite end of it now. And I think it's something so beautiful to strive for, and something that I know I certainly think about striving for as well, because what a beautiful world when you can surround yourself with like amazing, awesome, badass people and be happy for those people, even if you're dealing with your own things, or even if you have aspirations that haven't been met yet. I think that is one of the challenges of this decade, and you really have done it so well. And I mean, I want to ask you later in the show what, along with our other questions, of like what that you think led you to be able to do that, and what tools you've used to get there. Because now that I think about it, I don't know if it's always been that way.
Yeah,
it definitely hasn't. Like I in general am so, don't get me wrong, like we all should be proud of each version of ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. Like we should be proud of a version of ourselves from a few years ago, because that person decided to take the steps to get to this version of themselves. So like there should never be a version of yourself that you look back on and be like, oh my God, I'm upset with that person, because you would never be your person now if you didn't have that version of yourself. So that all being said, I am incredibly proud of the version of myself right now, because she put the work in to get to this place. And I definitely did. Like I was not like, and I also think that's just part of maturity. Like I don't think that you're going to be happy for someone when you're younger, because we grow up where like all you guys had cell phones before me. Was I happy for you? 0%. Zero. I was like, are you kidding?
She said those fucking bitches.
Yeah, literally. I was like,
ring, ring.
Julia can call Heidi to get her lunch from somewhere, and I'm sitting here staring at the wall. And it's just very different. So I know I was not at that time, but I am proud that I have gotten to this version of me, and it is genuinely one of the things that I love most about myself, and it makes me so unbelievably happy that other people see that. And it's not, like everything is fake until you make it, right? Like, and that's the only way people are going to get to be happy for other people, is faking it until they genuinely believe it for other people. But I so believe it. I'm not faking it. And there is a difference that other people can see. And it gives me more joy than I could possibly express, that like my friends genuinely know that I am so unbelievably happy for them in their lives. And that is like, there's no greater compliment in the world.
Yeah. And it's so crazy because it's like for huge things, like, and everybody knows it, like even from the moments that they meet you. Like I remember even like when thinking about wedding dress shopping or thinking about just all of these big milestones that have come up, even sharing, like, I think money's a weird topic, like all these things, like, oh, I got a raise, like all these things. I've never had like a hesitation that you would feel anything but happy. And you're always such a person that, like, I think people itch to tell things too. But before we get too deep, because we have the type of friendship where we're going to all get way too deep.
We're going to circle back on this in a moment.
We're going to come back to it.
It's so bad. Brenda was here the other day, and like we left to go get facials. And then on the walk home, I was like, Brenda, I didn't ask you how your week was. Like, we didn't talk about anything. Like, I have no idea what's going on in your life.
Yeah, because we just get down a rabbit hole.
In a rabbit hole. Like, 4 hours. It's unwell.
It's like all of the deep things you would never even think would come up, but not like, how was your week?
Nope, not at all.
So
all right, we'll get back to this because I have genuine questions on this topic. But before we do all of that and get down this rabbit hole that we're about to go on, let's do a little bit of Pride and Pickle. Woo! Haley, would you like to go first?
For sure.
Okay, great.
But okay, are we doing like pride and then pride, then pride? Or are we doing pride, pickle, pride, pickle, pride, pickle?
Pride, pickle, pride, pickle, pride, pickle. Okay.
Well, I have 2 prides. Sorry.
Great.
Pride number 1 is our beautiful best friend Brenda asked me to officiate her wedding, and I've literally never.
Oh, that's such a good pride for the show.
It's such but like it's genuine. I've been telling everyone, like showing everyone the video. Like I'm just so unbelievable, and it's so weird because it's like, okay, Hayley, like that's a happy thing, but why is that a pride? But because Brenda wants me to stand up at her wedding and marry her, like to pick the ceremony and say the things and present the rings and say, now pronounce you husband and wife. Like what a power that I was instilled. Like it's crazy. And I have not been that overwhelmed with emotion. I cannot even tell you how long.
I knew you would be.
But like it's weird to be like, oh no, like when's the last time you like hysterically cried? Oh, it was like it was amazing. It was amazing. So I feel just like so unbelievably blessed and genuine pride that you would want me to marry you guys. And it's just, yeah. So that's one pride. And my second pride is work related. So that's why I'm bringing it up, because I feel like it's just a good thing to bring up in a podcast. And I can do both about it, I think, is that I basically tried to cultivate a mentor at my company right now. And that is outside of my current team. And why that is so hard, especially where I am, is like we're very show centric, we're very team centric, and it honestly is really, really hard for us to meet anyone else. And I kind of have like slowly over the past 5 years cultivated this relationship with this badass woman. And she's one of the heads at MSNBC, and she has really always impressed me, like genuinely always impressed me, because she has become such a badass woman and she's still so freaking nice to people, which is not something you see in the media. Like you just don't see people being nice to people at this point. And she is, and I asked her if she would be so kind to meet with me. We had a meeting and she was so nice, and she's letting me basically shadow her at like all these big events and do things. And I really think it's just going to be such a good thing for me. And it was really scary and a big step. And like, people are like, oh, what are you doing with her? What are you doing with her? What are you doing with her? And I'm really prideful that I did it.
I'm so freaking proud.
It's such a big step. Do you think that this could be a 2-part episode? Not to interrupt the episode.
I mean, I'll talk as long as you want me to talk. So,
well, I'm just saying because we're like 15 minutes in, so I feel like there's a lot left to talk about. Just putting it out there in case.
Oh, like that we don't need to limit ourselves to stop at the hour mark.
Yeah, and like maybe we don't have to do the solo after. I don't know. Just things to think about, depending on how it goes. But
unless Haley's got somewhere to run off to.
I have nowhere to run off to. If you want me to talk, I'll talk.
Okay, then what's looking, you know?
Then we're just talking.
We're talking, we're chatting.
I can't imagine not like super briefly commenting on what you said because it was so beautiful. Which is why I said the 2-part episode thing. Is I realized too, I wonder how people are supposed to address like officiate. Will you officiate my wedding? That's probably correct. Like I wrote on the card, will you marry us?
And then we laugh so hard.
Wait, why?
I wrote, Hayley, will you marry us? And it's like, okay, do you mean as a throuple?
I don't know. You marry us? Like, will you also marry me? But will you marry us as a group?
Yes. And I didn't intend it to mean that because I totally saw many cards that said like, will you marry us and whatnot. And I happened to get this custom card. But then when she opened it and like
she was confused.
Brief flip, she was a little confused. And I was like,
I was confused as well.
No. I was more confused because we were smelling pine cones 10 seconds prior. We were literally doing something for Brenda's job 10 seconds prior. And then all of a sudden she's like, here's a card. And I was like, what? Why are you giving me a card? I was like, I was like, what is it? Why is there a card here? And then and then immediately Brenda was like, I don't mean as a throuple. And I was like, what? I was literally like, you can see in my eyes, literal like
confusion.
Like you see the wheels turning.
Okay. So was the smelling the pine cones a ruse as to get Chris on the FaceTime? Was that why you were doing that?
Yes. So it became that. It ended up becoming that. But this man just like came in clutch because he asked me to meet him in the city, which I'm never in the city like consistently for this to work out that way. And it just so happened to this guy was like, oh, I'm going to the city. I was like, I'm going to the city. And then at first I didn't really want to like meet him just because like I didn't really want to work.
And he just handed you a bag of pine cones?
Literally handed me a box of pine cones in the rain in New York City. I felt like I was doing a drug deal. But then I was texting Chris.
Have you ever met this man before?
Never in my life. First time.
So you met a man, a random man in the city. Yes. He handed you a box of pine cones.
Yes.
And did you give him anything?
No, I said, thank you so much. Nice to meet you. And then I went to Haley's apartment.
Bizarre.
Super weird. But we needed to test pine cones for Christmas. Scented pine cones, you know, the ones you put in a little bowl. So we're doing those for our company. Not important. But when me and Chris were texting and I was like, oh, this is so silly. I don't really want to meet a random man in the middle of the city. He was like, I understand. And I was like, but this could be a great opportunity. And then we kind of crafted it and it worked out perfectly.
Okay. But so there was no real transition between sniffing pine cones and like, oh, by the way, card. It was just
well, I didn't have the card readily available. So I was just like, oh, and this was the perfect reason to. And then I went to grab it. Yeah. And she was
I thought it was honestly like, you know how Brenda made us these really cute ornaments? That like the wooden ornaments. I thought that's what it was.
Oh, right.
And it felt like that. Seriously, wheels turned and then emotions flooded the system.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I guess you could just say, will you officiate us?
Our wedding. Yeah. Like I could have totally picked a different word, but that's why I was nervous because of that. So anyway, that's that. And beautiful. So beautiful.
We got there.
I would marry both of them as well. It's fine.
We are very excited though for your mentorship, Hayley, and that is a huge pride. And maybe if we have some time later in the show, we could talk about that as well, because I think that's something a lot of people struggle with, of a want for a mentor and how do you go about that. And
it's so hard.
It's really hard and also really important if you can get one. So maybe we'll circle back to that later as well if you have time. But what are your pickles?
My pickles, so my pickles were, one was I did not see my boyfriend for a very, very, very long time. He has been so busy at work, and he literally just texted me, today is horrible. Like I have not talked to him since 9 a.m. Like we're just in a patch where he's working so much. So I've been feeling very just a little down in the dumps about that.
Yeah.
And then my real pickle was at the wedding this weekend. I just wasn't feeling good about myself. And that, it was not, I mean, I have a sinus infection and I've had a lot of health stuff. So I feel like that definitely
for sure
part of it. And I have had this cycle of like starting a great workout routine and then getting hurt or like breaking my hand or being severely ill and genuinely just feeling in this rut. So I was feeling really, really down about myself. I'm not going to lie, but I have tried to take charge all the way around. I woke up and got a cinnamon broomstick from Trader Joe's and I moved my body and I'm going to do Pilates tomorrow and I'm cooking all my meals this week.
Hell yeah.
So,
so good.
We're turning it around. But yeah, that is true. And I would be remiss if I didn't actually genuinely say that I felt not great. And that's, that's okay.
Yeah, I'm glad for you sharing that. I think there's like this like ethereal thing that you think you'll like get to a certain place and you'll just like feel awesome about yourself all the time. And like I just don't know if it's true. Like I had like such an ugly day the other day. I was just like feeling so hideous. I was feeling so down on myself. Like it just happens sometimes. It's okay.
It does. And it's crazy. But then sometimes when I feel like you do like intentional things, like even getting a facial, like small things, or putting on makeup, like those little things, you're like, oh, okay. Like it's nice to have those moments too.
Yeah.
But we all have the bad ones too.
Yeah, there's just gonna be those days.
Yeah.
Brenda?
For me, I'll start with my first pride because we've been podcasting for 3 years and every time we start podcasting, I forget my charger. Thank you so much.
And here he is to deliver it.
What'd you say?
And here's the delivery.
Delivery. Thank you.
Good.
So thank you. That's my pickle number 1 is I'm just irresponsible. Then my pickle number 2 is that I guess in the sense of like being in all random stages of life, I feel like this year has just been super chaotic for me and it's been busy and it's been a lot of things and I hate using that word, but it just happens to come up all the time. And this week is filled with pickle jars. And the reason I'm sharing is because last week, I'm never going to let this go, that Julia said she thinks I wake up and I'm so glad that she said this, but I have to like break this now, that she said I wake up and the theme song that plays in my brain is perfect day. Nothing's getting through my way.
You're one of those. You just are.
And that's beautiful, but it's not that way. So we do our best to navigate. However, this week I'm going on an international trip. My suitcase just got here. I'm tremendously unprepared. I've been working until 11 p.m. most nights, and now today, here I am.
Doing more work.
Then we've been babysitting a pup. She's not here today, but it's made me realize maybe she's got to wait for another dog because it's a lot. And
a second dog?
She has
I
been.
really have been getting an itch. Yeah.
I absolutely would have said not allowed.
The itch is so real. It's like when with the Ellie where like she was talking about it and then all of a sudden
no.
But it's also not just even in it. It's like, and now I've talked about it maybe to just like a couple of people a little too much, that like my ads are all like truly so targeted.
Don't do that.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that right now. It's a little too much. And just like the things we were talking about before with just unexpected things in terms of being in your 20s is sometimes living in a home where there's not in terms of chaos, living in a home, we have to get our whole roof redone out of nowhere. And I'm just upset about it.
That's so upsetting.
So
like you kind of want to convince yourself that like, maybe it can wait. I really tried. Apparently we can't wait.
No, roof's pretty hard.
Yeah, roof apparently is important. So those are 4 pickles in a jar. And then my pride. What the heck's it? I definitely wrote down a pride. What was it? My pride in general. It's just that I'm really excited to go on a trip with my family. I weirdly feel. Have you guys been on a vacation with your family in a long time?
A vacation?
Yeah.
No,
right?
No.
Like maybe that's not like something women in their 20s do anymore.
I've been on vacation with Nathan's family.
Okay.
I don't know if I've ever been on vacation with my family.
Wow.
That's so not true.
Yes, it is.
Wait, is that true?
Like, I think, like, I mean, we went and visited my grandpa in Florida.
Does that count?
Like, that's, like, I'm telling you, like, I'm not being dramatic.
Does that
like,
count?
I'm pretty positive that's the only
Wow.
I've ever been on with my family.
Wild.
We used to go on vacation when I was a kid, and we haven't since I was a kid.
Like, I went to Florida. Like, Florida was vacation to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that counts.
Yeah, I think it counts too. But in general, I feel like as we get older, like we kind of stop doing that more. So obviously this is a very like personal place to my family, so it makes sense. And I mean, I would go anywhere with them anyways. But I'm just really excited, even though I'm totally unprepared.
It's gonna be so fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be so magical. And also, you haven't been to Paraguay in a while.
I know, I haven't been there since college, which feels like a very like older person thing to say, like since college. But like it's been like 5-6 years.
Old. We're old, okay? I told my mom yesterday I was 25. I'm not 25. Okay?
I think I'm 25.
I'm constantly telling people. I told my gynecologist I was 26. I'm not. Like these things that we're old. We're old.
It's true. Also, like when I see people getting engaged, I'm like, so young. I'm like, they're 12. And then it's like, no, they're full adults. I guess they're allowed to do that.
It is so true. It's so crazy.
Literally, I'm like, oh my god, but so young. Oh, they bought a house so young.
Oh, baby,
like in their mid-20s, like
baby.
But to me, that is young.
Wow, I'm literally sending this to my mom right now because you know when someone asks you like, "Are you okay?" and then you just happen to be like a little emotional and then you just cry. I can't tell you the last time I've like cried besides Hayley the other day, and my mom just asked me like, "Are you okay?" and I happened to be working a long day on a Saturday. And I cried, and I think now she like thinks I'm like permanently not okay, but I'm fine. So I sent her a picture of you guys.
You can tell her that I cry every day.
Amazing.
Every day.
Better. But you know what, Julia? You don't seem like you do.
But I do. Every day.
I just wiped away at Sia before I hopped on, she said.
You know what, Julia? Like you're lucky in the sense that if you cry, you still like your face maintains the same level.
Oh yeah, I would never know.
Whereas Brenda cries and her face immediately becomes.
You do get quite puffy.
Yeah, it looked like I got stung by a bee.
It's crazy. Like the amount of people.
Maybe you gotta cry more.
Like I think I just show a lot of people your face when you cry. Like on.
That's so embarrassing.
I'm like no, like someone like everyone that cries at work because people cry at work all the time. They're like, "Can you tell?" And I was like, "No, you should see my friend Brenda."
You should see my friend Brenda. Don't feel embarrassed.
If you think you look terrible, look at her.
What a true friend does. They really just tell you where you
yeah, they tell you where it is. Anyway,
it's out of your control. Okay.
Back to you, Julia.
My pickle was that there's a jar. One, I'm sitting on the bathroom floor because that's still where we're at. Number 2, no resolution as terms of apartment things. That's number 3. Number 4, I was just having my career is a lot of rejection and a lot of no's, which usually I'm very fine about. And I had gotten a recent rejection about something, and it really threw me for a bit. It was like I just had a lot of self-doubt. And it's funny because it's one of those, when it comes to self-doubt in terms of my like talent or my aspirations, it's something that I constantly am trying to like defeat or like get over or move past. But I think I need to accept that that's just part of this like life and job, and it's okay to have moments of it instead of, thank you, Hayley, beating myself up for feeling that way, because I have this made up thing that one day I'll surpass that. So I was having a real moment of self-doubt, like, should I even be doing this? Am I even good at this? Blah blah blah. Got some great feedback today that helped me get out of that slump. Anyway, so I was having just one of those days. And I think I just need to accept that those days are going to happen. And I need to stop pretending like one day I will conquer that, because it doesn't serve me.
Yeah.
Because I think that's not something you,
to be honest, with both of you, you both have this thing that you are constantly being like, why aren't I over this? You both do this. And I'm always like, why do you think that you're going to be over this?
Yeah.
Like, I constantly feel like I'm trying to convince you guys, like, you should not be upset that you're still going through this.
Yeah.
I think you both have this thing. Like it's so interesting because they're for entirely different reasons.
Yeah.
You both have this thing that we have conversations and you're disappointed in yourselves for not being what you think is over something. Yeah. And I'm always shocked by that, because I don't know if it's maybe because, like, maybe honestly I'm psychotic. I don't really know, but like, I'm not upset with myself when I'm sad that my chronic illness is flaring up, right? Mm-hmm. And like, other people be like, well, why aren't you over that? You're going through, like, this isn't something that you just started dealing with like yesterday, but I still get upset about it. Mm-hmm. And like, you're still upset when a rejection flare comes up and you're like, is my self-doubt, am I not good enough? And Brenda, you still get upset when you're like, oh, I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I'm not happy, or why aren't I over that? Or why aren't I proud of myself for, you know, having this routine or whatever? Or like, if you missed a day and you're like stuck and mad at yourself, and I'm like, and you're like, why am I so upset? And I'm like, both of you, you're allowed to be upset. Like, you're allowed to go through these things. It's the fact of the matter is, though, like, you get through it in a very different way than you used to get through it. Like, you're not sitting in it. Like, you're allowed to have that moment. Like, your brain doesn't change like that. Like, your signals to your brain aren't going to change like that. It's like your fight or flight instinct. Like, it's not going to go away completely. You just, the way that you handle those feelings that will change, and you'll get out of it quicker and quicker and quicker. And you'll come to your friend and you'll say, I don't know why I'm still doing this, because you know better. Like, you're saying to me, like, I know better than to be self-doubting, but you're still gonna have those moments. They're not gonna go away completely. Yeah. You shouldn't be upset with yourself for having it.
Yeah. 100%. That's so true. And they're both things that we actually talked about on our 300th episode, just about things that we're like still struggling with, in the sense of like not having a higher expectation of ourselves. And I think a lot of that just comes with, like, we have done a lot of work, and it's almost like instead of being proud of only the fact that we can bounce back faster, we still kind of do have some fixation on like, but I should be better at this than I am. So I think it's partially like personality, partially the like competitive nature with ourselves. And it is just super interesting.
But like, your relationship with yourself is a relationship. You would never be like, oh my God, me and Chris never have to work on a relationship ever again.
Yeah.
You know, like, your relationship with yourself it's not any different. It's even harder. It's even more important. It's even, these things are going to come up. Like, me. So true. Hopefully this makes sense, but I just think that like your relationship with yourself is still a relationship. Like, we think of it as like such a specific separate entity. And yes, it obviously is. You're the most important person. You're the only person that's ever going to be there for you 100% of the time. Validate there for yourself 100% of the time. All of those things, but it's still a relationship. And I would like, if one of you said to me that like me and Brian should never need to work on a relationship ever again, I would think you guys, that was a dumb advice.
Yeah. 100%. No, and it's so true. And I so agree. And it is constantly funny to me that when we're dealing with things that are with ourselves, we're so much harder on ourselves. We're so much less forgiving. We're not able to like see things in that logical way a lot of the time. And I think that is another one of those things that is the maturing through your 20s, of like understanding that and really accepting that. And I mean, beyond your 20s, I think that is like one of the greatest things in life of, you know, we're so much readily available to forgive other people than we are to forgive ourselves. We're so much readily available to cheer other people on than we are to ourselves. And I think that is a battle of this life. And it's something I think about all the time of like, why do we have that relationship with ourselves, and we're so much kinder and in more fluid relationship with others, you know, and I think we all experience that. I don't know anybody who feels that their relationship with themselves is easier than their relationship with others. So it's just an interesting thing that I think that we will all keep developing through, not only in this decade, but throughout our whole life and navigating that relationship. So I fully agree. And my pride, just to wrap this up so that we can get onto the real questions, is I went to Palm Springs this weekend with my friends and my boyfriend, and it's just like really one of those places that is a happy place for me. And every time I go and every time I talk about it on the show, I'm like, find a happy place, because it really is one of those places that for some reason I go there and I'm like, it's gonna be okay. Like a lot of like not so happy things were happening while we were there, just like life things, and it was like, all right, but we're here, so it's okay. So just very grateful that I have that escape and place to go to, and to have that opportunity while things have been a little crazy over here. Crazy. Okay, but let's get into the real questions, why we're really here today. Before we go to the written ones with this case study, I just want to circle back to what we started with before we came into this Pride and Pickle, of that evolution, Hales, that you've gotten to about being able to be so freely happy for people in your life. What do you think are some of the tools that you used to help you get there, and why do you think you're able to have that perspective on it versus being comparative? Because comparison is one of the biggest topics we talk on this show about.
I think that one of the reasons, at least, is actually what we were just talking about, is like being able to be proud of yourself. I think that if I didn't count my wins so often, I would be less inclined to want to count everyone else's wins. I really try and feel proud of myself in some way every day. And whether it's like something really, really small, like being like, you said you were going to take a detox bath, take a detox bath. Like, I feel really proud of that. Like, today I got up and I went to Trader Joe's and took the bus across town again, and then took the bus to pay my rent. And on my walk home, I was like, look at you getting shit done. That it's so small and it's so little things, but I genuinely felt proud of myself for doing it.
And do you verbalize that to yourself? Like, do you say that out loud? Do you say that in your head? Or is it more of just a feeling?
I think it's a feeling, and I talk to myself a lot. Like I genuinely talk to myself a lot. And like I've said to you both so many times, like I've looked up, do I have schizophrenia? Am I, what's going on with me? Why am I talking so much? But also, you could just be very smart and talk to yourself a lot. So that's
very intelligent.
I'm trying to believe.
Big brain.
I'm big brain. She just has a big brain.
Little head, big brain.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, I do really talk to myself. Like, I'm telling you, when I was walking out of the subway and walking back to my apartment, I was like, this was probably me.
Oh, smile, girl.
Like, I'm literally like, good for you. Like, and I probably didn't say it out loud, but I was at least like making the facial expressions of like,
you felt it. Yeah.
I think that's a great tip. Like, I definitely don't do that for myself like enough. And I do that for like literally like the way I talk to Ghost, like she like poops and we're like, literally for ourselves. Like, we would be so much more. And I think it kind of goes to what we were talking about last week, but about not inspiration, but motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Like that motivation is not the first step. Motivation is actually like the last step that then creates more motivation. And it's like, if we were like continually like complimenting ourselves, hyping ourselves up, being proud of the work we did, it would probably create more motivation to do more work and do more things and continue on that like hamster wheel of that.
Oh, definitely. And I can tell you that I feel like for both of us, honestly, Ju, it's just really interesting to see those dynamics with like people that we vibe with really well and people that we trust really well and see like where those little differences are. But I think that kind of where we end up falling, and I don't want to speak for you, so if I'm wrong, tell me. But I feel like for me sometimes when I set a standard, if I've like overcome that to an extent, or it's almost like I've set a new threshold. So if I ever go below it, it's almost a judgment instead of being like, wow, look at how much I've accomplished. And this is still something to celebrate. I almost feel like when I set new goals, oh, this kind of sounds fucked up. I feel sad for me for saying that, but I almost feel like then it's not enough if I don't meet that kind of. And I can see how that ends up being like it's almost never enough and nothing is ever enough. And I think that that becomes like almost a toxic cycle with yourself. So I love that Hale intentionally, and I feel it for her, like when she sends a voice note to us and she's like, guys, like I did this, I went to her doors, like I genuinely do feel joy for her. So it's just so funny that like we really don't always react that way for us and instead make it like, oh well, if you don't meet this, then I don't want to say that you stink, because I don't think I believe that I stink, but I'm like, oh, you didn't give it your all today, or like, oh, you didn't
reach
give
your
enough
capacity is how I feel.
Exactly, like you fell short to an
Right.
extent, when it's like, no, it's just a different day.
Right. And like
Interesting.
you have to have the little things, like, and I think that I feel that so deeply because there's been so much time that I've spent where I haven't gotten to do the big things.
Yeah.
And that I feel like you could drown in that, or you can really genuinely celebrate the little things. And when I'm at my best, I still celebrate the little things, and it only makes me better. Like it genuinely does. And I think that that is one of the things that really allows me to be happy for other people, because I'm like proud of myself. Therefore, it's easy to be proud of other people and happy for other people.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm taking a tip home with me today.
It's so true.
I don't know why it's in my couch apparently.
It's something we could all like easily start to implement into our lives. You know, it's not this big thing. It's just like start doing this little thing every day and like what it does.
Inherently want to do. You do pride in pickles. Like you're talking about a pride. Like these aren't, it's not like you guys like don't know that you should be proud of yourselves. Like you do.
Of course. I think it's just like on a different scale sometimes. Like it is true. Like when we take time to reflect on stuff like this, we do feel proud. And it's like to be able to do that every day is beautiful. Why not?
That's beautiful.
That's beautiful, yeah.
Speaking of growth in certain ways, where do you feel Hale, like, and it could either be since the last time you were on the show or since earlier in your 20s, where do you feel like you've grown the most since earlier in this 20s, like around the time where we started the show, maybe like around that first time that we spoke?
I mean, where haven't I grown?
Where hasn't she?
Where? I feel like
where do you feel yourself doing better compared to that time?
I think I know myself in a completely and utterly different way than I used to. And I think that though actually inherently helps everything else when we're talking about comparison culture, because the fact of the matter is a year feels so long. You can do so much in a year. So much in a year. But at the same time, we're like, oh my God, if I don't do this by 30 or I don't do this by this, like we're so behind, we're so this. But like if I think about myself 2 fucking years ago, I'm a completely different person. I'm a way better version of myself. Yeah. And at that time I was thinking like it's not possible to get to this level. But like I'm a completely different version of myself. I know myself so well. And I also feel like I know myself so well because I think I stopped thinking in terms of what other people were thinking. And I don't really mean like, oh, people are liberal, so I should be liberal. Like, I don't mean like something like that. I don't mean like an inherently like big thing, or, you know, you like chicken Parmesan, so I should like chicken Parmesan. Like, I really feel like because we are such deep friends, all of our friends that we surround ourselves with, it's easy to not know what are your thoughts and what are other people's thoughts, especially also we're incredibly close with our families. We're incredibly close. Like we just have people in our corner in the most beautiful way that we are so close with. And I think that I really didn't know what my own thoughts were and my own genuine like beliefs, and it's not values. I always knew what my values were. I always knew what my morals were, but I don't think that I knew really what I wanted and knew was best and things like that, because I was like, it was just so much noise around me. And I have taken so much time to, one, not only be by myself, because I have, and I love that, and I would recommend it for literally anyone in the planet, but I have taken time to like listen to different things or read different things or, you know, meditate in uncomfortable moments. And I took this one class where like I wrote down, it was basically like a timeline of every single defining moment in my life and what actually made it defining. And it really, I was like, it gave me so much clarity. I was like, wait, that's why I'm so traumatized by this. And that was like 5 years ago and I wouldn't even remember it. Like it really just like genuinely understanding why I feel certain things has made me a much, much better version of myself in all aspects of my life. And it has allowed me to know what I really need and really want and really value in other people, honestly. So I would think that's probably the most thing that's changed for me.
Yeah, that's super helpful. I think it's extra helpful because we were talking on our social media and stuff just about like what is doing the work. And I think that like it's a topic and a phrase that like we throw around a lot, but people don't understand, and I don't blame them, because very rarely do we actually like explain, oh, this is what it was for me. And I think that that's because it's so different for everyone. And I think it really ends up being like a path to just getting to know yourself better and getting to identify which thoughts are yours and which thoughts you don't agree with and you can be respectful about. But really choosing how to align with that and how to show up in that way, again, without like maybe hurting people, but also without dimming your light. And I feel like each of us has learned to do that so differently and beautifully, and there's still things that we're working on. But I think it gives people a lot of clarity of just those couple of little things that you can do on where to start so that you can understand that. Because I think that that is really what it comes back down to, is that clarity within yourself, then that awareness to really get there, and then being able to actually show up as that. Because I think sometimes people like maybe uncover a thought that they think a certain way or something about themselves, and then it's really easy to want to like, maybe not to want to hide, but to almost default to hiding that, or to default to being like, oh, well, that's different. And I think that we have this idea that change can be bad, but I think all of us have changed so much. And even if it's different, it doesn't mean it's bad. So I think that's a really great piece of advice.
What I love that the three of us do is that when we're talking things out, we often go, I'm just realizing this right now, or this is, I'm starting to understand maybe why I'm feeling like this right now. Like we are constantly aware that like our thought patterns might like come to us. Like we're wanting to understand ourselves better. And like we are always having conversations where we're like, you know what, like I'm honestly thinking about this for the first time really right now. And like it's so good for you. It's so good for you.
Definitely. Oh, I love that. Well, I think that people listening to you on the show right now are probably like, this girl has her shit all together. So, to give them some perspective, what are some things that you kind of find yourself still to feel like alone in your 20s? Like, what do you feel like, what do you feel alone in?
If anyone thinks I have my shit together, that's hilarious. So thank you so much. I feel alone in a few different things. First of all, I don't think that anyone will ever feel anything but alone in their own body. And that's like no one, the amount of times I have thought like, I wish I could touch someone right now and they could know exactly what I was feeling is numerous. I have dreams about it all the time, to be honest. And like, you're never, that's never not going to be true. And that's something that, you know, first of all, like literally every single person on the planet is going to have to deal with and deals with on a regular basis. So that's not like something that I feel like, oh, I'm alone and no one else feels that way, but you're just always going to feel alone in that. And I've come up facing that in so many different aspects of my life, whether it's, my health, I've had a lot of health problems, and whether, I'm coming up because my body is hurting in a way I can't describe and no one seems to understand, or whether it's something like where we were saying at the wedding and I'm feeling this gross feeling in my body and Brian's like, what, you look beautiful, what? And like, he's not gonna be able to understand. Yeah. And I felt very alone in that often. And that is something that I have constantly felt, and 2023 has been a year of feeling alone in my body. So that's definitely one of them, if not my main thing right now, honestly.
Yeah. I think it's a great way to verbalize it, because I think it is true that, we're so on this comparison wheel all the time. But the truth is that like, you are never going to feel like somebody else is going to feel 100%. No one's ever going to feel how you feel 100%. Like, and that's, yes, we're all like universally living this experience, but everybody's experience is their own. And I think it's a really great way to verbalize it, because it kind of allows you to be like, when you are feeling alone, to be like, that's okay. That's just being human, of like, my experience on this planet is mine to have. And like, that's all right that I feel this way right now. Right. And that I don't, I don't feel like when I think of like, what are you feeling like alone in your 20s? It's that thought of like, why doesn't anyone else feel this way? Why? It's like kind of a why me situation sometimes. And I think having that perspective of that, we were all having our own unique experience, and that's just the human experience. It's like a really beautiful way to put it.
Yeah, I really believe it to be fully true. Hello, is it a ghost?
I gotta turn on the motion sensor.
Oh no.
I'm in the bathroom.
Yeah, just taking a shower.
Just taking a really long poop. You should be to a bathroom. Nathan comes in here and hides for hours.
Oh, for sure. Every man that's ever existed.
Every man that's ever existed hides in the bathroom.
Yes.
For sure. They hide.
They do. It's like it's honestly one of the parts of growing up with a brother is that like, we have one bathroom and I need you to leave.
Come out of the bathroom. Stop playing video games on your phone.
Like, get out. Why are you giggling on the toilet?
Stop it.
That's great, Hill. This is a harder question.
Yeah, I would agree.
What do you wish you knew sooner?
I mean, to be honest, like the thing I said before about like knowing, like listening to yourself, something I wish I knew sooner. And honestly, like in like more, I guess, like in smaller terms and actually giving examples, is like, I was so sure that I didn't like New York City to live in. Like certain things, like I was, because of genuinely because of other people around me and other experiences and what I had put, like I put myself in such a box in so many ways. And I also think, like, as someone that has chronic illness, like I put myself in a box of like, I can't have fun like that. Sometimes I can. And you know what? Also, like, if you like, there's such a difference between like can't and like for the greater good am not going to. And I don't think I understood those differences because of just like all of the noise. And I really believe that you are a mix of a billion different people in college, because you're so much finding yourself and you're around so many new people that don't really know you. And so it's like kind of like the perfect opportunity to kind of like try out different versions of you and what things that make you happy and stuff. But I do believe that like at the end of that, sometimes the real you can get lost. And I definitely think I was lost for a long time in my like adventure to find what I thought was the best thing ever. I was lost. And like, I think that what the number one thing that I wish I knew sooner was that.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because a lot of it is like who we are. And I think it goes back to what you said of like what you can do and then what you're deciding to do for the greater good of like your life or your moment or whatever it is. Like a lot of who we are is the choices that we make, right? And who we choose to be. Like we could have went down many different paths and chose to be many different people. Like there is a version of all of us that is doing the complete opposite of what we're doing now, living a very different life. Like we really are who we choose to be. And not saying that you have infinite, you're only given what you're given, but you have a lot of different areas in which that can probably be used in, right? Like I could never be a pro basketball player. I'm 4'11", but I could be a million other careers and a million other relationships relating to different people living in different places, having different, choosing to focus on different interests or whatever. But I think when it comes to like the noise, it's like, okay, what noise do you want to weave out to make choices that feel aligned with like who you want to be?
Yeah. And I think honestly, this is so like small and minute in the grand scheme of life. But like, I actually think that like my New Year's Day vision boarding, New Year's Eve, like is very helpful.
It's best. Please explain to us. Please explain your New Year's Eve part. I think you did last episode, but I want to know.
I don't remember. I probably did. The past couple of years I have spent New Year's Eve, and I don't know if it'll be forever New Year's Eve, or if it'll be New Year's Day or anything like that. But I really like making a vision board for my year, because, and I keep it somewhere that I can look at it occasionally, at least like see it, like it's under my table right now, and I can see it anytime I move my tissue box, which is often, and like just kind of see like what I thought I wanted, or what I wanted to achieve, and kind of like relate to that person from however many months ago it was, and see, and like, okay, good, did you do this? Did you do this? Is that something you still want to do? And I just think it really is such a good way to acknowledge your choices, and whether you're not making the choices because you are not being the best version of yourself, or you're not making the choices because actually that was a better choice to not make. And I think it's so helpful to be like really checking in with yourself because of having that like outline right there for you.
Definitely. I think that that's so important, and it's something that like I think about, and I think that every time that like things are chaotic and we have so much going on, and I think that one of the biggest things that like I come back to in terms of this show through all of the like seasons that we've had, and Julie and I have been so lucky that weirdly our like seasons of like pushing and our seasons of like needing a little time and like all this stuff have always aligned throughout the past 3 years, which is crazy. But I always come back to like that person. And I know that we all have had that person who was us years ago after college that was like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Or like, how do I get there? Or do I really want this? Or like, who am I? Or just like feeling lost. And I think of like that person listening to our show and just being like, oh shit, like I'm not the only person. Cause I think that's where that whole sense of finding yourself to be alone really came from. Is I think now when we have situations, you feel alone in the moment, and then you're like, someone totally has to be feeling that. Like, this is a normal thought. Like, I do that now. Whereas then I really believed that like everyone had it figured out and that I didn't. And I feel like we all in our own way had that. So it's so cool to see in all of us that now that's kind of evolved, and that also we've given ourselves that permission, and it comes and goes depending on the topic, but like we've given ourselves that permission to change, and that to hold ourselves to a higher standard, to be the best that we can be, but at the same time to know that like if that changes along the way, it's okay to be honest with ourselves about that. And I think it's set such a cool standard for people to not be so like, I don't know, so like hold so tightly to a vision that like is no longer serving you. And I think that that's translated to people, it's translated to environments, it's translated to communities. Like we've taken that lesson into so many different areas of our lives and have like let it be our choice as to how we want to like fill those spaces. So it's cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. you. To kind of switch gears to like topics that you're still interested in. I feel like we all keep saying like, oh, I thought I knew this, and I'm still learning about this thing. But what are some other topics that you find yourself now to just be like more curious about, want to learn more about?
I have a problem in that I'm literally curious about everything. So that's
give us 3 topics, random, anything.
Really something that's I struggle with. I don't know.
Okay. Oh, you're muted, right?
You're muted.
Well, she was coughing.
Oh,
how embarrassing. Maybe something related to like your own growth that you're like curious about learning about stuff.
I'm definitely still curious about different aspects of career. I have a lot of unsureties, which isn't a word, about where I'm going. And I think that helps, like with trying to find mentors is kind of a helpful step that I'm taking. But I do have so much that I'm unsure about in that. And I think that like taking little things internal, that was such a dumb phrase. Taking small steps to eventually make the large decisions is helpful. Whereas like a small example besides the mentor is like, I have been obsessed with this podcast recently. And so I found the showrunner, and I found she has a Substack and a newsletter that she sends out on how to create like narrative stories. And I have been obsessed with that Substack, and I might take her class next month on how to, really tell a better version of a narrative story. And whether or not that's something I end up doing in like an audio format, I don't know, but I want to continue to do things like that so that I don't feel like I was making blind decisions the whole time. Because that's really genuinely how careers work. Unfortunately, it's kind of just like blind forward momentum that like hopefully you'll end up liking or doing. And they always say, and I fully believe it, like especially as an internship or like your first few jobs, is like it's better to know what you don't want than you do. And hopefully these small things that I am doing will help me weed out what I don't want so that I don't have to make as many blind steps forward in the future. So that's definitely something that I'm curious about still. And I think overarchingly, like learning about other people's jobs. And I know that sounds like similar, but it's not. Like genuinely hearing about my boyfriend's job, his friends' jobs, like understanding why they're doing the way they're doing. It kind of like helps you learn why they are the way they are and how they tick. And like this is honestly like such a perfect example is like something that me and Brian fight about the most is that he loves to play devil's advocate with me. Whereas like sometimes I just need you to help me. Like I just need you to say it's okay or validate me. Yeah. And when we were in Nantucket, when I was with Julia in Nantucket, Nathan, her boyfriend, was like, well, what do you think you're going to get from dating a lawyer? And I was like, you're so right. Like I picked myself. Like this makes so much sense right now. Like it helps. And I genuinely just like to ask people questions. And I think learning about other people really does help you learn about yourself more. And that's all I got.
That's so good. We played a game this weekend called Most Likely To, but odd job version. So we were just doing odd jobs and like who at the table would be most likely to do that job. Because it's exactly what you're saying of like, okay, what aspects of your personality like make you right for that job? And so one of them was like drug dealer. Neither of these boys are drug dealers, but we said that Nathan would be like the drug lord because he would be doing like the financing and like the getting the and like the business models of the drug selling. But then our friend Rob would be the drug dealer because he can be nonchalant and he's very like, hey, you want this? Or like, and we were just uncovering like aspects of people's personality. And it's just really funny always like what makes someone like why someone goes down a certain path and like what makes them the way they are and what little aspects of that like define their personality. But I'm so glad that you brought up the job thing because, you know, I think many people can look at you and be like, oh, she's so successful and she's doing, you know, so well. Like, how could she possibly like still have doubts about that? And I just think it's such a powerful thing to be reminded of that a lot of people are still feeling that way. Like they could look successful from the outside, but like it might not mean that and they could be enjoying it even now, but it might not mean that that's what they want to be doing for like the rest of their lives. Or I think we get very stuck in, oh, well, they're doing that and they're just going to be on that path forever and never need to have that like doubt or figure out or need to take a step back to move forward. And it's something that I'm seeing a lot of people around our age actually coming up against of, okay, I'm maybe wanting to shift. Oh no, what does that mean? Am I going to have to take a roll back? Am I going to have to take a pay cut back? What's worth getting to where I want? What's worth the change? Like, so I think it's a really validating thing to share that, especially because my next question is in the work lane. The next question is about your 20s tips and what your top 3 biggest takeaways have been from your 20s. But I'd love for your first one to be a tip about what we talked about earlier about finding mentors and how you know, what's your piece of advice there? How have you navigated that? And then we can do your 2 others to be whatever you'd like them to be.
I firmly believe that leading with kindness will help you find a mentor. And
it's beautiful. Tell the shade story.
What'd you say?
Please tell the story about the shades.
So the woman that I am currently obsessing over and hoping to be my mentor through the next, few years in life and things like that. She has always been like a big shot. And when I was a PA, I always would say hi to her. And she was just so lovely. And so I made sure to always say hi to her every day. And when I moved teams and I went to a different floor and things like that, she still would come around because she's important. And she just was needing to be on my show and people that are bigwigs on my show and do things like that. And so again, I always made sure to say hello, ask her how her life was, things like that. She does a little bit of literally everything. And so something that she had to do a few months ago, and by the way, she didn't have to do it. She did it because she knew it needed to get done. So she does it, is that she knew that all these anchors were moving floors and they needed new offices, and the offices had huge windows, but they could not get fogged in time for the anchors to move in. But the anchors, they have to change in their rooms. Like they can't, no one can see into their office the whole time. That's an invasion of privacy. So this woman, who is a very important woman, by the way, went around with paper blinds and was measuring them and putting them up herself and walking around the building. And I was like, do you want me to help you? And so I spent a couple hours with her, probably an hour and a half with her, taking off our shoes, standing on couches, measuring blinds, just chatting. And I just think that it helped cement my face in her.
Yeah.
And so when I had been in a control room with her later on, I was able to say hey, I'm obsessed with you. And I think you're amazing. And I genuinely think that not enough people tell you how amazing you are. And I would really like to continue to tell you how amazing you are. Is there any chance that you would ever want to meet with me or have some 5 seconds of coffee with me and give me some advice and help me in my way? And she was so willing about it and lovely about it.
I just love that story. Sorry, but I just love that story because I think it really shows that sometimes we're really in it for the long. 2 things. One is that being kind goes a long way, and you should always be kind. And had you not been that kind person, who's to know if she would have been so readily available to give you her time? Because time is extremely precious, especially when you're a person of her caliber. Number two, I think it really goes to show about like the long game. Like that was a while ago that happened, right?
A year ago.
Right. So I think like sometimes I know I feel this way a lot, and I have to catch myself of like sometimes it's like, well, I'm putting in all this work and I'm doing all this stuff and I'm not seeing results. And I think we need to remember that putting in that work, volunteering your time, doing that stuff is so important and will eventually show the fruits of that labor later on. Like there was no way that you were going to get the fruits of that labor of this thing that you did a year ago, but now you're seeing it a year later benefit you. And I think it's just such a good reminder when you're on the hamster wheel and you feel like you're getting up every day and you're putting it in the work, whether it's for your career, for your body, for your relationship, whatever it is, you might not see the benefits of that right away, but knowing that doing that every day is eventually going to bear fruit for you. And I just think it's a really important thing to remind ourselves. And I love seeing the examples and when it does play out, because you're like, oh, okay, keep going. Keep going.
For sure.
It definitely is. And I think it also it shows like people really do remember those little things. People remember when you go out of your way. Everybody knows that everybody's busy. Like everybody knows there's many things that you could be doing, but really going out of your way for something that's small or maybe something that's big, or maybe working later or any sort of gesture. Like there are such small things. Like I work with a lot of people that are older than me, and I really go out of my way to do like little things, like send them little baskets or send them little notes and like stuff like that, to really have them know like I appreciate what they're doing and that I don't see myself as like better than them, or like I don't know, little things like that. So I feel like that stuff really does stand out to people and like matter to them. And I think it also does make us feel good, like knowing that we put that step in, and like you said, Ju, it is like that cherry on top to know that it contributed to this future like goal or result that you were working towards.
And another 20s tip I would give then based off of that is like compliment people. Like I
really good one.
It's so awesome when you tell a random person on the street, like, I love your outfit or I love your jacket. They will brighten up more than anything. And like, I remember, and to be honest, we were talking about this at the wedding because I complimented some woman when we were walking, and like the boys kind of laughed, but like one of them was like, honestly, I really need to do that more. And it's like, it's very good. It's really good for you. Like it's in general, it makes more you do it, the more like the easiest it becomes. Like it is genuinely don't think about it for a single second before I give someone a compliment anymore. And I remember, and I told the boys this example, like I remember I was walking to my friend Leanne's show in the city, and I was going in by myself, and I didn't want to see a lot of people, and I was just feeling also like just like not great about myself, like we talked about. And some girl across the street was like, I love your pants. I fucking went in like I'm the coolest bitch in the fucking world. Like it changed my life, and like I believe it's such a little thing, but it matters. And also like Phoebe Buffay learned in Friends, there's no such thing as a unselfish deed, because you always feel better about yourself when you do something nice for others. And I think it's just such a small thing that will change your life. I really do.
It is. It's so small. It's like we don't, at least I know now you think to do it all the time, but like I'll think things sometimes and I won't say them out loud, and like I don't know what it's about.
Right, like you think, like you see some girl and you're like, oh my god, I love her back.
Yeah.
You say it.
Yeah. I love your back.
No one is ever mad at getting
bag or back.
You love her back?
I mean, I love her back too, probably. I mean, Brenda, though, to be honest,
I appreciate a back.
I was gonna say, like, I don't often compliment people's backs, but I like your back's great. Like I love my back. I do.
You got a good back? I was just getting some clarity on which one you said.
Has a great back. When she was trying on wedding dresses, I was like, Brenda. It was shocking.
Shocking. That's a good one. You get one more. It doesn't have to be a tip. It could be a takeaway also.
Well, actually, I have a tip. As we were saying tips, I was like, what's a tip I actually tell people? This one is people are going to come for me that don't love like holistic things, but it's something that we love.
They're listening to the wrong show.
That you're right, like get out. If you finish a product, and this is something that I have taught my friends, and they all do it.
Oh,
amen. If you finish a product and you're like, I'm not obsessed with it, but I just keep buying it, go online, go to Think Dirty or go to EWG and find a better for you product that replaces the product you just did. Correct. A cleaner product, something that doesn't have, all of the crap in it, the fragrance, the phthalate, I don't know how to pronounce that word, and I always have to be told.
I know.
The endocrine disruptors, like the carcinogens, like all the things. Honestly, there are small things that you don't realize. Like there are minerals that disrupt your endocrine system, and like
also a lot of times the alternate products are cheaper than the products that you're buying.
1000%. Me and Brenda, when we were after a facials, like I went to get something at Sephora, and I had never heard of this brand that this guy had recommended. And I went online and it was clean. And I went to get the face wash and it was like $16. And I was like, that's so funny because like some of my other face washes are $32. Like, why are we obsessed with these brands? And like, don't get me wrong. When I see my influencer girlies on their shit, I'm always looking at their product. And then I get dirty and then I go to EWG and I'm often disappointed.
Yeah,
by the fact that they're not clean. And so I really what it is, you can't change everything. This isn't your quest to be a perfect individual, but as I have learned, and the reason I say it as a tip is because I would not have learned it if I had not had so many health issues, that then these things become important to change your life so you can feel better. I think that why shouldn't everyone already do it so that they never have, like, it only helps you. It will never hurt you to make these changes. Yeah. So change your dryer sheets, change your detergent, change your cleaning essentials, like change things that like really don't matter to you that much, which one you're using. So you might as well change over to a product that's cleaner because it will only benefit you in the long run.
100%. And I think a lot of times people think it's like, well, it's an all or nothing. And it's really not. It really doesn't have to be. It can, like, every little thing does count when it comes to this. Yeah. So don't think, well, I'm not going to change everything, so I'm not going to bother doing that. Really, the little things, a few products here and there, they do make a difference.
Yeah. And I think taking it a step further too, it's like that knowledge piece that we always come back to is like, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to follow everything to a T, but just like being able to know, like having that knowledge is different. And if you decide to make a choice based on the knowledge that you already have, I think that's super different than like living kind of passively and living uninformed, which is to no one's fault. Like probably should make it easier for us, but this is a little thing to make it just a little bit easier so that we're not like kind of walking blind. And then some people do end up having complications or things that kind of force them to have to pay attention to this even more. So kind of getting out ahead of something like that as a preventative measure too.
And I like that you say choices because they are your choices. I would say my apartment is 87% clean. I've only cleaned candles, cleaning products, most of my makeup, most of my skincare, most of my hair care, all of it's clean. I tried natural deodorant for 2.5 years and I'm a smelly version of myself because of it. I'm back on the aluminum. Is my doctor angry?
Like, get over it.
I'm aluminum girly currently in my armpit. Like,
choices.
It's choices.
Yeah, empowered choices.
Your bucket counts, and that's what they always like. One of the most important things that I've learned in my health journey is like every single person has a bucket. Every single person's bucket is filled differently based off of genetics, environmental factors, things in the world, the food we consume, all this stuff. Every person's bucket is different, but every drop that you add to it will fill your bucket more. So all you really want to do is take out the things that you can control and that you want to control so that you don't have to worry about your bucket overflowing and bad things happening and things changing in ways that you didn't want them to. And it helps.
Yeah, definitely. In our house of 2 plus a dog, we always say is this Hayley approved? There are so many little things about like even literally last night. We've been ordering a lot of Whole Foods just because it's actually easier than I thought it was. Like I did not realize Amazon made it so easy. And life is chaotic, so it's been our go-to. And there's so many things where now it's so much more automatic. I'm like, oh, this is totally Hayley approved. And it's just like an easy go-to.
I'm so happy about that. I love it.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And I forgot my other thing. It'll come back to me.
I love it. I love it. Fully support that. And those apps are so great. EWG and Think Dirty. They're apps. They're also online websites that you can easily access, totally accessible to everyone. Last but not least, Hayles, what resources, we've asked you this before, but what resources have helped guide you through your 20s thus far? Which resources have you been relying on more other than those two?
Things that I've been relying on more. I would say I really loved Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart was really good. So good. The Body Keeps the Score was really good.
My dad's favorite book of all time.
So good. Truly so good. Listening to podcasts that have experts on that I want to learn more from. I think resources is like the first thing you need to do is find out if you agree with their choices and you respect their thoughts. And then if you do, find people that they respect and go from there is like really how what I've been doing with a lot of podcasts. Like I download a shit ton of podcasts, but I often will download like one-offs of specific podcasts because someone I really respect and trust posted about that podcast. I'm immediately going to download it. Like find people that you respect and trust and do things from that. And really, most of all, read some books. You're going to become just a much better individual. You're going to be so amazed by what different types of books can do for you in all ways. And and I've said this 100 times already, the phrase firmly believe, which is disgusting and I need to remove it from the vocabulary. But I firmly believe that there is a novel out there that will get every single person on this planet to become obsessed with reading, and you just need to find it.
Facts.
Right. Oh my God, she's dancing.
Oh, we're dancing. You can only see this if you watch YouTube. Watch the YouTube version. Anyway, it's not going back on. Anyway, Hayley, thank you for being our first case study in we haven't named this other than case study yet.
Yeah, which like sounds like super official. Dr. Julia and Dr. Brenda.
Talks with friends.
No.
Okay.
Forward friends.
What'd you call it?
I called it forward friends. I don't know why.
Back with friends, but
I'm gonna reject that one as well. But we'll circle back on the name. Thank you for being our first case study. Thank you for being here. And I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. We'll be doing these more often with all different kind of people.
You love it.
Talks.
It's fun to see how we changed and grown.
Yeah.
We love that. Evolve.
Seriously, evolve, people. And go get a cinnamon broomstick from Trader Joe's.
Get a cinnamon broomstick.
I keep thinking you're going to say a cinnamon bun.
Honestly, sounds amazing.
That does sound good too.
Sounds amazing.
And the Trader Joe's candles are probably not so clean, but they are good.
Yeah. So
and that's a choice that I will make.
Your choices, guys. It's all about choices.
It's all about your choices.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. We hope you have an amazing week. Happy Prides, happy pickles. And Hayley, where can people find you if they want to chat with you?
Say hello.
They can find me on, I actually have a website too, HayleyRoss.net. She has that. She has Instagram _Hayro. And on Julia and Brenda's pages because I can't stop hanging out with them.
We love you guys so much. Thank you, Hayley, for being on the show. Please leave us a rating and review. Check us out on the
5
YouTube.
stars. Or don't come.
Oh, she said it, not me.
Awesome.
An honest review of 5 stars.
Correct.
Check us out on the YouTube. And if you guys have any questions or feedback, topics that you want to hear, the link in our Instagram bio and the link in our podcast show notes has a little form that you can fill in to suggest those. So we'll catch you next week.
Bye,
everybody.
Bye, everybody.